the number of computers works together to solve a particular problem given. The goal of the grid computing is to solve more high computational problems in less time. It is a type of computing where all the hardware resources or software resources are provided to the customers through a network. User request for any of the services from the provider. So this is utility computing. Dear students, welcome to Computer Science classes. I am Ravi Kumar K.R., lecturer in Computer Science, Vidhyaashram First Grade College, Temple of Excellence, MYSURU. Student, let us start our session with the chapter introduction, that is introduction to the cloud computing. So in this session, we are going to talk about introduction and different computing paradigms. The meaning of different computing paradigms means before we were using cloud computer system, how were the systems were processing in computer system. See, that is what we are going to learn in the session, different computing paradigms. Now let us start with, first one is distributing computing. As I told you, so here these are the different types of system were existing before we start using cloud computing or cloud technology. So among them, one of them is distributed computing. So what is distributed computing? So it is defined as a type of computing where multiple computer systems work on a single problem. So here all the computer systems are linked together and the problem is divided into sub-problems where each part is solved by different computer system. So the meaning of distributed system is the given complex problem can be broken down into small programs or called small sub-programs, and these sub-programs are processed on different computers and all these computers are linked together in the form of distributed computing system. So that is the concept of distributed computing, where different computer systems are connected together so that the given one problem is divided into number of sub-problems and all the different computing devices will process different sub-problems simultaneously. That would be the definition of distributed computing system. So the goal of the distributed computing system is to increase the performance and efficiency of the system and ensure fault tolerance. So the concept here is, what is the meaning of fault tolerance? Suppose any of the system is not working or it doesn't respond, so the same module or subprogram can be executed or processed by some other system. So that is the goal of distributed computing system. Now look at the diagram here. So in the diagram you can make out, see, this is one processor, this is one computer. So the diagram would be, you can assume like this. See, this is one system with one processor and one memory. So this is one computer, and similarly this is another computer with processor and memory, and you can assume one more computer here with processor and memory. So here all these are individual systems are connected in the form of a network. So all these are interconnected. So the concept here is the given problem, suppose is a complex problem, we are dividing into number of sub-problem. So for example, so this is S1 sub-problem 1, S2, S3 or S4. In this example, if the given problem is divided into 4 sub-problems, and here each module or each sub-program will be executed by different system, so that all the modules or all the sub-programs are processed simultaneously. So this is the concept of distributed computing system. Another type of computing is parallel computing system. So what is parallel computing system? So here it is defined as a type of computing where the multiple computers systems are used simultaneously. Here the problem is broken into sub-problems and again the further broken into instructions. These instructions from each subproblem are executed concurrently on different processors. So this is the definition of parallel computing. So here, what is the definition of parallel computing? Here, the given problem is broken down into number of subproblems, and each problems are executed or processed simultaneously in all other systems in a computer network. So that is the definition of parallel computing. So the goal of parallel computing is to save time and provide concurrency. So this is parallel computing. Now this is the, look at the diagram now here. The below diagram you can see how the parallel system consists of multiple processors that communicate with each other and perform multiple tasks over shared memory simultaneously. Now look at this, this is a control unit, and if we talk about this is a memory unit, and here we have processor 1, 2, 3. In this example or in the system there are 3 processors. So the definition is the multiple processors or communicate with each other. So here this is data stream 1, data stream 2 and data stream 3. So to solve any problem or a complex program into number of subproblems, so each subproblems are processed separately, but they are going to share the same memory system. So this is an example for parallel computing, and here multi-processor communicate with each other and perform multiple tasks over shared memory simultaneously. So this is the difference between the previous one, distributed computer system, and here in parallel computing system. In distributed computing system, there are all the systems will be having individual memory as well as a separate processor. But here number of processors shared one common memory unit. So this is parallel computing. This is an example for distributed computing system where this is one unit, another unit, and all these are interconnected. And here if you observe the previous diagram here, this is the processors share common memory unit, but in distributed system all will be having different system with a different processor and different computer memory. So this is the definition of distributed computing system. And here in this diagram, this is an example for parallel processing, and this is an example for distributed computing. So here the number of processors shares common memory. So this is the difference between distributed and parallel computing systems. Now in the next slide, let us see what is cluster computing. So what is a cluster? Cluster is nothing but a group of independent computers. So what is a cluster in general? It is a group of computers, so that work together to perform the task given. So here the number of computers works together to solve a particular problem given. So here cluster computing is defined as type of computing that consists of 2 or more independent computers, so and referred to as a nodes. So in cluster computing, it is a group of computers, individual computers, they are called as nodes that work together to execute a task as a single machine. A cluster forms a one separate network with number of computers, and all together work together to solve a problem as if working on the single machine. The goal of cluster computing is to increase the performance, scalability, and simplicity of the system. So this is cluster computing. See, this is an example for that. Here, as you can see the below diagram, all the nodes, this is called nodes, means all individual computers forms the nodes here, and all the together is called a one network or a one cluster network. So here they are parent node or child node act as a single entity to perform the task. So this is the diagram shows the example for cluster computing where all are individual systems and in the form of a network together forms a cluster. So this is cluster computing. And next one is grid computing. So what is a grid computing here? It is defined as a type of computing network where constitutes a network of computers that work together to perform tasks may be difficult for a single machine to handle. Here, the definition is quite different. So here, grid computing, it is a group of computers to form a grid network. Here, it is used to perform a task may be difficult for a single machine to handle. So if the processing is very difficult in one system, so the same thing can be processed in some other system. So here all the computers on network work under the same umbrella and are termed as virtual supercomputers. So here the computers are termed as virtual supercomputers. The task they work on is of either high computing power and consists of large data sets. With the help of grid computing, so it is possible to process with high computing power and large amount of data. So all communication between the computer system in a grid computing is done on data grid. So here data grid is a part of a grid network where the communication takes place between the two systems in a network through data grid. So this is grid computing. Now the goal of the grid computing is to solve more high computational problems in less time and improve productivity. So this is the goal of grid computing. So here this is the diagram showing the how grid networks looks. So here these are the users and grid server, grid client. So this forms a grid. So it is a combination of more than one computers. Next one is utility computing. Next concept is utility computing. So it is defined as the type of computing where the service provider provides the needed resources and service to the customer and charges them depending on the usage of these resources as per requirement and on demand, but not of a fixed rate. So this is another type of computing system. What is utility computer? In general, it is a type of computing where all the hardware resources or software resources are provided to the customers through a network. So here the clients or the user, he will use the hardware resources or any different resources or services from the provider as per requirement and demand. So it is as and when we require, we can look for or we can make use of the services from the utility computing network. So here, and there is no fixed price for it. So there is no fixed rate for this. So you are going to pay for your usage or how long you have been using, and you are going to pay only for that duration of time. So this is utility computing system. So it involves the renting of resources such as hardware, software, etc., depending on the demand and the requirement. So this is the provider, utility service provider. It is a network. They are going to have different services for the clients or for the users. So here the users or the provider, the renting his hardware or software and the services on demand. The goal of this is to increase the usage of the resources and be more cost efficient. This is the way we can reduce our cost here, because we are going to pay only for the usage or how much we have used, how much we have utilized the services from the utility computing. So this is the goal of utility computing. Now look at the diagram for this. This forms utility computing here, and these are the services provided by utility computing or the provider. So it may be on-demand service or broadband network access or measured services, and this forms utility computing. So here user request for any of the services from the provider. So this is utility computing. In the next slide, we will see edge computing. So another type of computing system is edge computing. It is defined as type of computing that is focused on decreasing the long distance communication between the client and the server. So this is done by running fewer processes in the cloud and moving these processes onto the user's computer and IoT devices or edge devices. So here, what is the edge computing? Here, the computers, it also a group of computers, and they are called as edge devices. And here, in this type of computing, the few of the processing is done in the cloud computing network, and remaining part of it will be processed at the edge devices. That is the concept of edge computing. So the goal is to bring computation to the network's edge, which is in turn builds less gap and results in better and closer interaction. So the main concept here is, here the few of the services are processed at the cloud network, and then moving those processes to the user's computer. So this is the definition of edge computing. And look at the definition of this. So this is an example for cloud services, a cloud. So this is a cloud service. It will be utilized by different types of devices. Next concept is cloud computing. So what is a cloud computing? So cloud computing is defined as the usage of someone else's server to host, process, or store data. So what is the meaning of cloud computing? So here, what is a cloud? It is a group of services or cloud service provider. They are going to have an infrastructure where they are going to maintain, or they are going to have the services for maybe hardware services or software services or other type of services for the users, for the client. So it is defined as a type of computing where it is the delivery of on-demand computing services over the internet. So here, for cloud computing, internet is mandatory. Without internet, we cannot make use of cloud services. And these services are available to the users on demand service. Means whenever the user wants to have a service, he can request for it and he can make use of it. And once the processing is done, he can disconnect it from the cloud network. That is the concept of cloud computing. And here it is widely distributed, network based, and used for storage in cloud computing. So they will be having different types of services. For example, a network service, a storage service, or different hardware or software services. And here there are different types of cloud models. One is public, private, and hybrid, and community model. See, these are the different reference model. And some cloud providers are Google Cloud, AWS, Microsoft, Azure, and IBM Cloud. See, these are all the different cloud servicing providers. Now look at this. This is a diagram for cloud services. See, this is a cloud computing, and it will be maintained at the cloud service provider. Many clients from all over the globe, they can access different types of services from the cloud computing, from the cloud service provider. Students, in this session, so far we have discussed about different computing paradigms, nothing but what are the different computing systems were existing till we are using the cloud computing technology or cloud computing services. Now let us continue our discussion in my next class. Thank you very much.